Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this Monday morning in real time. Anyway, my hair looks like it's a Monday morning. My face looks like it's a Monday morning. For a prayerful pause with the pastor. It's really interesting, this word prayer. I had a conversation over the weekend with someone who's about a decade and a half older than I, and we were talking about the younger generation, which I think he was talking about people in their 20s, but it goes much it's a much larger term than that in reality for what he's saying. We were talking about prayer, and someone was facing, who's in their 20s, is facing some challenges and decisions to be made, and this gentleman said, well, does the word prayer ever enter the conversation? And I know for a fact that this person's children, who are in their 50s, would never use the word prayer. They don't pray. They're good people, and they're moral people, and they're not church people or any organized religion. But the word prayer does not occur to them or cross their lips. Instead, it's very much like this younger generation person that they were talking about who's in their 20s. They'd be more likely to talk about meditating or deep contemplation. I'm trying to think what other words I've heard. Reflecting. And the word prayer has just become associated with throughout that whole, well, it's more than a generation, but for many, many people has become associated with something negative, with the staid old-time religion. And it was really grieving the heart of this octogenarian. I tried to get across that, well, we have other things that we call it, but prayer is prayer, whether we call it prayer or not. But this person is so wrapped up in their understanding, their practice of prayer, their real prayers, morning, noon, and night. They're so wrapped up in that it seemed even a little blasphemous, I think, to them when I said, well, maybe God is trying to broaden our definition of prayer to include other things. I see that as indicative of what the problems are facing churches today, and maybe facing some of you today. You don't want what you've had before. Maybe you want part of it, but a lot of people don't want that anymore. It got them to where they are now, which is not perceived as a very positive or healthy spiritual place for many of them. And that's troublesome to me because, of course, I think that it can be positive and healthy and challenging and adaptive to whatever we're going through. So I guess I'm bringing this for us to think about today, to suggest a few things. Maybe number one, that we begin looking for words that are alternatives to the word prayer. Not alternative practices. I think what you do works for you, or you wouldn't be doing it. But perhaps the terminology, would it expand our experience of what we do to think of it in some term other than prayer? Also to say, how flexible are you to trying new things, new forms of prayer? We do quite a few different forms of prayer here. We're talking about nature, being outside, the arts, being creative. We talk about and explore readings, movies, all those things. But even the title of this segment, Prayerful Pause with the Pastor, other than being good alliteration, probably turns off some people, huh? And to be truthful, I'm not sure about the future of this broadcast. Doing it as a daily thing, Monday through Friday, for the last 2 years, is getting to be a little difficult for me to schedule now that I'm working with 2 churches. Might have to become more of a sporadic, less daily, episodic kind of thing. I'm thinking. I'd be interested in your input, especially if you are a regular watcher. Send me an email. But yeah, prayer. And why is it that a whole generation or 2 seems so turned off to this notion of prayer? Unless you are in the Bible Belt, unless you're in a very conservative area, perhaps. And I don't just mean Christian. I think that many of my Jewish friends, especially Reformed Jews, they struggle with the terminology as well. It seems to be across the board, or it's associated with the fanatical right wings of the various world religions. Interesting, isn't it? When do we stop being a faithful remnant and become something that is passé? I don't know the answer to that. Worth thinking about, though. Thanks for joining me for this prayerful pause with the pastor. Today, talking about prayer. I'm Pastor Deb Swift of South Presbyterian Church in Rochester, New York. And until next time, God bless, take care, and bye for now.